All right, breaking news coming in right now. Former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher is dead. The news coming in is that she passed away from a stroke. She was 87 years old and she was Britain's longest serving Prime Minister. Baroness Margaret Hilda Thatcher, also known as Maggie Thatcher, who led the country to war in the early 1980s in the Falkland Islands, and known to have been an Iron Lady, one of the toughest politicians, of course, from the conservative side of British politics, has passed away in England. We're going to get more information on this. Remember, over the last few years, Margaret Thatcher has kept a very low profile. She was 87 years old. She interacted with very few people. She was 87 years old when she passed away of a heat stroke, though she largely kept pretty good health towards the end of her days. She remains the longest serving Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Margaret Thatcher is no more. It is the end of an era as far as British politics are concerned. Margaret Hilda Thatcher was 87 years old when she passed away. This is the information that we're getting a confirmation of from our affiliates in the United Kingdom. Margaret Thatcher, also called the Iron Lady and portrayed most recently by Meryl Streep in a movie of the same name, was known to have been a no-nonsense and tough Prime Minister, the country's first woman Prime Minister, who set an example of just how hard a country can be and how no-nonsense policy making can really be under a conservative setup. Margaret Thatcher famously led the United Kingdom to war for the Falkland Islands against Argentina in the early 1980s, a war that the United Kingdom won, but a war in which several thousands of lives were lost, and as a result of this, criticism was heaped upon her. Her conservative policies were both praised and criticized in equal measure. She was the longest serving Prime Minister nevertheless, and she came to power at a time when Britain sorely missed conservative policies and ideas, and it was a void that Margaret Thatcher willingly filled. Wartime was a difficult time, and it was an event that would stain her reputation for a long time to come.
The divisive figure that she was. It did seem as if one half of Britain was taking up arms against another half of Britain. She would say that it was a necessary battle.
Strikers showed their defiance.
It was a battle. She eventually won. Mrs. Thatcher had long been a target for the Irish Republican Army. In October 1984, a hotel she was staying in was bombed by the IRA. It was a clear attempt to kill her and her cabinet.
My husband was in bed and all the windows went and the bathroom was extremely badly damaged.
In your own room?
Yes,
your room?
Yes.
I think that's enough.
We were very lucky.
On the international stage, she wooed and bullied in equal measure. She described Mikhail Gorbachev, the then Soviet leader, as a man she could do business with. But it was with Ronald Reagan, her political soulmate, that she developed a special bond.
She was on the phone to him and she was going on and on and on, and he was in a group with advisors around him, and he picked up the telephone as she squealed so that everybody could hear, held it out to his friend, nya, 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 they could hear, and he turned to his friends and said, "Isn't she wonderful?"
She attracted fury for consistently refusing to impose sanctions on apartheid South Africa. Some think she's been harshly judged.
She was no friend of apartheid at all. She was telling South Africans the whole time that this cannot last, not so much on moral grounds, but on sort of economic grounds. This is no way to run an economy. You cannot do this. You have got to change.
She won a third term as Prime Minister, but controversial policies lost her support in the country and in her party. In November 1990, she resigned and left Downing Street. The Iron Lady almost cracked.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're leaving Downing Street for the last time after 11 and a half wonderful years.
Politically, Margaret Thatcher cast a shadow which remained after she left office. Her final years were dogged by ill health. A series of minor strokes meant she rarely spoke in public. But critics and supporters alike would accept that Margaret Thatcher helped create a period of fundamental change, not just in Britain, but across the world.
Algeria's Alan Fisher there with a profile of Britain's former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who has died at the age of 87 this Monday. Let's go live now to our correspondent Paul Brennan, who's in London for us. Paul, the death of Margaret Thatcher